Welcome to this first session of the local group webinar Darmstadt. So we are really pleased to see so many people today for this session. And I think we are all happy to see as well new faces as a speaker. So Josphine will talk for us tonight. So I will just start the presentation. Thomas, do not hesitate to accept the people. So normally you should see properly. So welcome everybody for this first session of the year. So we will talk about high uncertainty environment and lesson learned from the humanitarian sector with Josphine. So it's really great to see a young project manager talking for us today. Just as a recap from the agenda, so I will just introduce you the suggested conduct and present you our local group. Then Josphine will present you a presentation, and then at the end I will give you the PDU code, and I will ask you as well to run the event. As a reminder, please mute your microphone. You can use your full name so for us it's easier to send you the PDU code as well at the end. Feel free to turn on your video, but this session is recorded as well. You can ask some question, and we will take your question for the end of the presentation for the Q&A session. And you can as well share your LinkedIn profile if you want to network with our pool of project manager. You can as well, in any case, contact the speaker, and after the presentation, we will provide you with the slide deck of the presentation. And this session is recorded, as mentioned, and we will ask you not to use AI bot, which are strictly prohibited by the PMI. So to give you a little explanation about what is the PMI. So you know that the Project Management Institute is an international institute. In Germany, we have 5 regions and merged in one chapter from 2020. And we have more than 25 local groups. So you can see in the region central, we have different local groups. So Frankfurt, Darmstadt, Heidelberg, the new local group in Mainz. So you can always find a local group very close from your place. In Germany, we have more than 11,000 members from a very international community, so more than 40 countries. And in Germany, we have more than 150 volunteers. And we help project managers to progress in their career, to improve their knowledge, and to look for a network. So do not hesitate to reach out as well, or the PMI. From our local group, so we are English-speaking community based in Darmstadt. So if you don't know where it is, Darmstadt is 20 kilometers from Frankfurt, next to the airport. We have 7 volunteers from 6 different countries. So we are quite international, and we try to run twice a month online webinar. So we had more than 3,000 participants since the beginning. And on average, we try to reach 35 attendees. And we are 37 today, so we are really happy. And as well, if you want to connect with people in real life as well, do not forget that we have once a month our roundtable. So the next one is next Monday, so feel free to join as well. Without more introduction, I will give the floor to Josphine. So Josphine is a project manager, PMP certified. She has more than 10 years experience in humanitarian development and infrastructure projects. And in particular, she is specialized in adaptive planning, risk management, decision-making under changing environments, so which is always interesting for us. And in particular, she has worked in civil and water engineering, humanitarian, and she's currently based in Essen, Germany. So, and as well, she was speaker in the IPM day last year. So we are really happy to have her today, and I will ask you to give her a warm welcome. Thank you. So Josphine, the floor is yours. You can start sharing.
Thank you so much, Florian. I will share my screen and then I can start. Okay, so thank you all for joining us today on this webinar on project management in highly uncertain environments. My name is Josphine, and before we get into the topic of the day, I would like to share a little bit of a background on myself so that we know how I got here and why we should talk about uncertainty today. So I come originally from Kenya. I grew up in Kenya, and then after high school, I pursued a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering in Uganda. After this, I went back to Kenya, and then I got myself busy working in infrastructure projects as an engineer, as a civil engineer, and as a construction supervisor, and even designing residential buildings. So it was good work. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed uh, doing all these building structures from nothing and designing, and I really loved it. But then I wanted to do something more impactful. I've always wanted to work with helping people or finding solutions for people. And I applied for various opportunities, but I was lucky to, by chance, I got accepted for a scholarship to study urban water and sanitation in the Netherlands. I specialized in water supply engineering, and this is where my journey really began, because then I got something that combines human needs, helping people, and engineering. In the humanitarian sector, we call it WASH. Florian was asking me what was that, but it means water, sanitation, and hygiene. So basically, it's about providing clean water for people, sanitation services, and hygiene services for people, often in marginalized or vulnerable communities. So after my master thesis, so actually for my master thesis, I worked on a project in Uganda, a rural development project in Uganda on water quality. I was part of a big project that was working on water quality and sanitation. So through this project, it resulted into peer-reviewed publication on water quality, and then this opened doors for me to work as an individual consultant for WASH projects and water engineering projects. And somewhere in 2021, I transitioned into the humanitarian sector. I joined the emergency response units of the Netherlands Red Cross. And this role, as you hear it, emergency response, it's more like how you know an emergency room at the hospital, or fire workers, how they have to keep doing stunts every day to prepare for the day when something really that needs them comes, or how soldiers are always prepared for battle. It's really something like this. So I had to keep learning and preparing ready for deployment, because deployment usually happens in just a few days. So with this, then I got myself into the high-stake environment for ever-shifting environment, and the projects really change in a blink of an eye in the humanitarian sector. So that's why I thought today we talk about how uncertain it is in this environment, and we see if we can learn something that we can apply into our own projects. So I'll now begin. I am, like I mentioned before, I am a water and sanitation engineer and a humanitarian project manager. In the humanitarian sector, there is often two kinds of projects. There is the development projects, which are steady, long-term, and they are well planned at the beginning. They because then it's possible to do it. There is no urgency in this. You just can plan it. Let's say, like when you want to build a hospital in a new place in the rural area, or for refugees, or for yeah, or for marginalized communities like this, or if you want to build a water supply system for such an environment, so then you have time to plan and be able to do it slowly and in a way that it can be sustainable. So the other kind of project are emergency or relief projects. These are often urgent, short term, and they more focus on saving lives and alleviating suffering from people. And they often occur during conflicts, during disaster, pandemic, or immediately after. So during or immediately after, not so long after, because then after a longer finishing the reaction point of the project, then they turn to developmental projects, which are more focused on building resilience and ensuring that something like this doesn't happen again, or if it happens, how can we be able to deal with it? So today, then, our focus will be emergency or relief projects. I will say emergency projects more often. When I say this, then you know which one I'm talking about, because they are the ultimate test of uncertainty. There is so much uncertainty that I would say it's inherent and it's constant during these kind of projects. So that's when I worked as part of the emergency response unit. These are the kind of projects that we had to deal with. So then, why the topic of uncertainty? I will ask all of us. So, what is the biggest emergency you've ever handled in your project? I give us a few minutes to answer. You can answer in the chat, or you can also like have it in your thought and hold it as we go.
So please feel free to add your comments or about what was your biggest emergency. Oh, Peter is saying huge fire evacuation, actually. That's a big one. COVID pandemic.
That was a big one for me too. COVID pandemic.
Team member ill who cannot return at work. Full system outage. Client running out of cash. No internet. That's usual in Germany, I think.
Yeah.
Prio 1 ticket in SAP. Server crashes.
So I don't know if someone else wants to say something or yeah? Okay.
Data center outage, earthquake, and we have part source out of Bitamperf. Oops. Problem with production, I think.
Oh, this sounds more like the kinds of things we have to deal with from Arun Ramesh with earthquake and this other person. My largest emergency was running military IT and communication operations in active deployment zones with unstable infrastructure and constant mission change. So this is the kind of thing that in the emergency response you have to deal with. Unstable infrastructure and constant mission change. So, yeah, so in crisis, it's often really life or death. But you know, an emergency can be something as small as a little accident in the kitchen when you burn something and there's smoke and you think, oh, what do I do? Or it can be that your car is somewhere in like a breakdown in the most unexpected place, or like everyone mentioned with COVID pandemic, or with a colleague is ill, or a client is running out of money in the middle of the project. So it can be really anything. An emergency can be anything like this. So but in the humanitarian crisis, then in wars or disasters, it's really real life or death situation, because the lives of people depend on you in this case. And in the world we are living right now, with all the climate change and pandemics and conflicts happening, this can also lead to supply chain disruption. So with all this happening, then I believe the topic of uncertainty is important for yourself in life and also for your projects, because when you know there's this possibility of uncertain things happening, then you prepare yourself more to be ready for when something happens. That's why we take insurances, like for your health or for liability, for your car, for your property. It's the same case, really, because when you're prepared for this thing, it might not happen, but when it happens, it could have such dire impact that you might not be able to handle it financially or physically in the moment. So having this insurance then makes sure that you're safe in case something like this happens. So preparing for uncertainty in this case is more like having an insurance, I would say. What fuels uncertainty in emergencies? Often, like somebody mentioned, it's totally unpredictable environments, unstable structures, like somebody said, and then there's scarcity of data, and data can be outdated in the shortest time possible, because today, you know, like there are 10 people who died, or there are 10 people who have cholera, but tomorrow it's 20 or 500, like with COVID-19, when you remember how it used to be when the health sector would report every evening, and today morning it was 20 people, tomorrow it's 200. So then it becomes totally different dynamic that you have to plan for. And then operational hurdles like insecure access. I've personally not worked in a place where there is insecure access, but I've had friends who have had to work from a neighboring country because it's not possible to get exactly into this country, or they can go until some place and not be able to go exactly where people are suffering. So the locals would have to support in this case. So another thing, yeah, security threats and the uncertainty is constant, multiple stakeholders. In this case, when there's a humanitarian a crisis like an earthquake, like somebody mentioned, then there's so many humanitarian organizations that are joining. And then there's also the local community and the government. So it's a lot of stakeholders working in this case, which makes it a little bit difficult, not a little bit, it's really difficult to navigate in this case. And so you have to figure out how can you do it in a way that it still saves lives of people and that it still, you can move faster as you work. Often multiple stakeholders make it a little bit slow to move forward because there are so many opinions and many people have to sign on something. So figuring out how to work through it really helps to move faster in these cases, because in urgent projects, then it's important to move fast. So I went to Oxford Dictionary to see what the definition of uncertainty is. And it says it's the state of being uncertain, and it also similar to unpredictability. So in this case, in my mind, I thought you're not sure. It's like you're in a state of, you're not sure if something might happen, or you're not sure if something might happen that you don't expect, or you're not sure to what extent something could happen. So you're really not sure. That's my thoughts.
Please mute yourself. Up.
Okay. So in the humanitarian context, uncertainty means that making high-stake decisions has to be with incomplete, unreliable, and constantly changing information. You have just to work through it. There is no other way. Because if you decide to wait until things are clear and complete, most probably you lose a life, or it gets worse with whatever thing, with the earthquake, with whatever. So you just have to use the information that you have and move forward. It's often a balance of ethics and ensuring that the project is moving forward. So it's a little bit of gray. It's not possible to say, so the law says this, so now you cannot do this at this time, because then at what cost are you saying the law says this? I'm not saying you break the law, but you have to really think about it, how you do it in this case, because if you're waiting totally to have complete information, you might really be at a bigger loss. So, like I mentioned before, in the humanitarian projects, uncertainty is more like the air you breathe, because it's constant, it's not going anywhere. You just have to find a way to work through it. And I thought I give all of us an example that we might be familiar with. I didn't work on this project, but I thought it's something that many of us have an idea of. The Ukrainian crisis from February 2022. So this happened after an invasion by Russia. Here you can see this photo where there's destruction of property. I think this was the first thing, and then people were displaced from their homes and had to flee for their safety. And it kept going on, I think, until now. Power plants were destroyed, and homes and people had health crisis. So it was a lot of problems happening. And this is the Kakhovka Dam when it was blown, and then it led to the floods. Many people could not leave their homes, especially the people, the elderly and the people with disability. It was difficult for them, but also for other people, it was difficult for them to be able to leave and flee for safety. So in this case, things like this is like the biggest global crisis that I know of in the recent times, to show that this is something that happens, and then now the humanitarian sector has to come in to see how they can save lives and help people to flee safely, and all these things, provide services like water.
It
Okay.
is muted, yeah.
Okay. So to provide services that are required in this case, like water, health, and shelter for people. So in my case, I worked on a project that was being done in Malawi. I show you a little video here to have an idea of what exactly happens.
What used to be a water catchment area for generating electricity, severely damaged by heavy rains and strong winds. Tropical Storm Anna triggered major power cuts here in Malawi. This power plant generated 30% of the country's electricity before flooding damaged most of the infrastructure here. It could take weeks before it is fully functional again. Until then, parts of Malawi will remain in the dark. This is not the first time the country's power utility has been crippled by the effects of extreme weather, made more likely by climate change.
We had gone through such situation during the drought in 2017, 2018, and we had recovered from that. And if you may check around, the country had now confidence in the power generation in the country, and this is a big blow to the national economy. We had started building on this, and this has brought us back that we now need to look at how can we come out of this fast enough.
The power supplier is now working to mitigate further impact from yet another storm expected to make landfall in the coming days. At a nearby village, people here are counting the cost of the damage.
8 feet.
Stanford Ngalu shows me what's left of his house after high water levels forced his family to flee. The 70-year-old tells me previous storms in the area were not as harsh.
We will be completely dead if rains come again. It will finish my house and will also damage the houses of those who were lucky to survive the last time.
Just as people in the region deal with the aftermath of Tropical Storm Anna, they're now having to brace themselves for a cyclone which is on the way. Nomsa Masego, BBC News, Blantyre.
Okay, so I was saying that I was part of this project. It happened, Tropical Storm Anna happened in January 2022, on 25th, I believe on 25th of January. And the humanitarian organizations launched like a plea to start preparing for a project, I think in 48 hours, if I'm not wrong. So that means that people had to already start being deployed in this time, in the first week of this happening, because then otherwise there'll be loss of life. So this tropical storm resulted in destruction of property, like we've seen on the video, and the power plant was destroyed as well. There was death of people. Thousands of people were displaced from their homes. And then there was urgent need for clean drinking water, shelter, and healthcare. And because of knowing the results from previous previous disasters that are similar, it was known that there's a possibility of a cholera epidemic, which later happened. In this particular project, there was no security threat like it was in Ukraine, but there was ever-changing stakeholders. There was culture difference. And there was also the risk of the cholera epidemic, which is something that made it, you cannot plan fully in this case. You have to always leave space for the possibility of this happening. So for me, I went to this project as part of the water sanitation and hygiene team. So most of my experience in the humanitarian sector is actually based on water sanitation and hygiene. There is different parts of humanitarian. You can find there is a shelter department, there is the healthcare, there is also for social support and all these things. But personally, I'm more in the water sanitation and hygiene. So I thought we can talk about how uncertainty influences the project cycle. I just thought this would be something interesting to see. So in the initiation period, it's the information that you get is often foggy and it's not so clear, and also it's not fully there. So you just have to work with what you're getting. And then the stakeholders keep changing. One thing I have to mention is that in this kind of projects, it's not allowed to work for more than 6 months as a person. So that means you can work for 6 weeks and leave, or 3 months, or 6 months. But then if you leave, then a new person has to come in. So then the team is changing, and also the kind of the humanitarian organizations that are working there, some are finishing earlier than others. So this also keeps changing, and also some are coming later. So they're not all starting at the same time. And it's important to always know which organizations are in this field that are working on what, because then this helps that you're not all working on the same thing. So it's something else that is really handy to note. So what happens in this case? This means that you have to do rapid needs assessment. You cannot do like a detailed needs assessment. You have to do a rapid one. And then for your project charter, it has to always be flexible, acknowledging risks like cholera upfront, because this is important in this case as well. In the planning stage, remember that data keeps changing. The data you had yesterday could be outdated today. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. And the stakeholders are also evolving, as I mentioned before. So what happens is you have to embrace rolling wave planning with contingencies, making sure that you leave some space for change, like a little bit of contingency in this case, flexible budgets, and centralized risk via active communication. You have to ensure you have open and active communication with your team and also with the other stakeholders that are working in this area. When you're implementing the project, it is often that something will change. In our case, the cholera that we thought might happen happened. So we were in the midst of providing, repairing water boreholes and repairing the latrines. The displaced persons were staying in schools, and then the school latrines, I don't know if everyone knows latrines. They're like toilets, but they are not for flushing. So they're often the ones that are used there. And they got to a point where they were full. And then we had to do fecal sludge to remove the fecal sludge and empty it. And that was something that was also not expected, because when the toilets are full, if you don't do it, then there's a threat of public health being compromised. So it's something also we had to look out for. So a lot of things changed during the implementation. But one thing that really helped was always reprioritizing as things are happening, because then you have to see what is more urgent at this moment. That is how we were working. And then also you have to ensure, as a leader, you have to ensure you do decentralized decision making to empower your team that they can be able to take decisions when you're not there, because otherwise then it takes longer and the urgency that we are talking about is not met. So often you have to have these things in your mind, that what is more urgent, what could lead to death if it's not done right now, or things like this. It's always about prioritizing to see what needs to be done soon. And another thing, like I mentioned before, is open communications, ensuring to respect the culture of the people, the community you're working for. This is very important, because one thing I realize is that when you don't try to understand the culture of the people you're working with, then they might not be interested in what you're doing, because if you're pushing them in a way that that's not how they work, then they don't listen to you. And it's a loss for you, because you're trying to ensure that whatever project you want to do it as soon as possible to save people's lives. So you have to really think about it, about the cultural awareness. So to ensure that implementation is successful, you have to be really agile and empower your teams and be open-minded for possibility of surprises like the epidemic of cholera in our case. And also delegate the authority early to your team to ensure speedy responses. And during monitoring and evaluation, one thing that I learned is that you have to take it more as a learning process and do feedback looping as often as possible. So you cannot work for longer to be able to give feedback. You have to do it. Often we had these meetings where we did weekly, and then you have to talk about what worked, what did not work, and then you're able to change soon. Because otherwise, if you wait for longer, you might find yourself doing things wrongly for a long period instead of changing and moving as you go. So again, communication is very important in this case to ensure that the cross-cultural insights on risk, and also like the epidemic, and also how people are communicating is looked into. It's very important in this case. And then at the end of the project, so one thing that is very important for any humanitarian project is that the community is involved from the beginning. And also the government is involved from the beginning. So as you're working, you're involving the people who are going to be left with the project. So by the end of the project, they already own the project, and you just have to like do a little bit of handover. In our case with like water points, these are the kind of pumps that are often used. You find that there's a water committee, people who are watching out for to ensure that the water pump is working, and they collect money here and there to be able to do repairs when needed. So things like this, and also to empower them in giving information and training. We had possibility of training community development officers. These officers are the ones who, when the humanitarian organizations have left, these are the people who now are left empowering the community still to be able to maintain the projects, the projects that were handed over to them. So plan transition over closure. So you have to plan the transition slowly. Like I mentioned, with participation, it really works like this. Another thing during the handover, like I mentioned, I think this is the key thing, that you are not doing it abruptly. You're just going to do it gradually, that the community is able to own the project by the end of your project. So I made this here to tell you how the humanitarian sector is able to navigate the chaos, because it's very important. One thing is that there's global clusters for like water, sanitation and hygiene, for shelter, for health. What happens in these clusters is that there's a global cluster that covers the whatever is happening in WASH globally, but then there's a cluster that is taking care of WASH in this particular case, like with Tropical Storm Anna. So all the organizations that were working in this area, their water sanitation and hygiene teams had to be part of the cluster. This way, we knew what is like which organization is working in which part. This is very important because then you know you're able to divide work and be able to work well without any clashes between the organizations. This really helps a lot, because otherwise you might also find yourself working at the same place with another organization. Another thing that really works is preparedness. Like I mentioned before with the insurance for the humanitarian organizations is often having preparedness projects. So like with tropical storms or cyclones or earthquakes, often there is a warning that happens from the meteorological organization or department of the country. So then they know something like this could happen. So when you know something like this could happen, then you start preparing, like with water sanitation and hygiene preparedness projects. What happens is that now you start already talking about what systems would work in this case, the people that could work if something like this happens, and you also set the resources that you might need if something like this happens. So this is very important, and it's actually something that is done by many. So now this might not be done by the humanitarian organization, but by the department, let's say by Department of Water in the country. So it's done before this happens. Like I mentioned before, the emergency projects are more a reactive phase to try and contain the crisis. Another thing is specialized courses. I believe if you check any website from a humanitarian organization, they have courses on their websites that are meant for their employees or for their teams. So one thing, like when you're working in the emergency response projects, you have to do a security training. This is something that you cannot be deployed without, because you get taught what to do if there's ammunition, like if there's guns and a lot of bullets flying, what to do if there's an earthquake, and what to do if there's a flood, like in my case. Like if you're there in the moment, what should you do to help people and to help yourself? Another thing is something like first aid. There is often first aid trainings. This is something that you also have to do. And then often there will be courses about community development or about public health or water sanitation and hygiene, to learn new things or how to deal with epidemics like Marburg or cholera. Another thing is structured onboarding. This is what ensures that the team is aligning so fast, because there is no time for dilly-dallying and getting to know each other. So you have to get to work swiftly. So you have to have a very structured onboarding from the beginning. This is something I really, really like, and I would recommend it to whoever, because having already some artifacts of how you want to onboard a new employee helps you a lot to do it fast, and that they can also get into the team fast. Something else is open communication and active communication. This helps to bridge the stakeholders, and also it makes people be trustful, to trust each other to work. And community participating, like I mentioned, with transitioning or end of project, when the community is participating in the project, then it's easy for them to feel like they own the project when the organizations have left. And as a leader, you have to make calm decisions, use a lot of emotional intelligence, trust and delegate to your team, ensure you are culturally aware, and ensure also cultural awareness within your team, that people are able to work with each other easily and also with the community. And then another thing is open-mindedness. I was recently in a panel where somebody asked where can I learn how to do something like asking for resources to learn about project management. And I mentioned I personally like to watch series about medical emergencies. I don't know. I think I like the chaos in this case. But then someone in the panel said that, so this is something you can do, but it means then being open-minded, because you can learn from anything, really, from anything, as long as you're open to it. So you just have to keep an open mind to learn and to see how you can solve problems. And then I thought to see what kind of lessons can we learn from the humanitarian sector in this case. So these are lessons that you're able to adapt and use in your field. So like if you work in a startup or in cyber threats with extreme uncertainties as your baseline, this is something that you could adapt to use. Something else is shifting stakeholders, like if some colleagues are leaving your teams in a very fast way and you have to see how you have to work with it. That's something you can also think about, how to navigate dynamics with having active communication for your team, and also cultural openness, because this helps you to be able to navigate in this case. It's very important for your project. Another thing is with access or security constraints. So in my case, they were really minimal, but you have to prioritize when needed to be able to see if you're working in a high risk industry. This is something I would say is important. And then I try to see lessons that we can all learn. I'm sure many people who are working in an agile environments already apply rolling wave planning. Like if you're working in research and development or in startup, this is something that is important. Decentralized decisions, I think this is something for all of us, because it empowers your team post onboarding, and this then makes it fast for the team to be able to move forward faster after onboarding. And then learning focused monitoring. This, I believe many people are doing this with feedback looping and trying to see what you can learn from whatever you've already done in your project. You can see if you can refine this in your toolkit, and being prepared is the best thing you can do for any kind of uncertainty, I would say. So I thought I will ask all of us this question. From the lessons in this presentation, what's one humanitarian practice you could adapt to boost resilience in your own project? I made a Mentimeter question that we can do. Yeah. So if you can scan this QR code and put this user code, then we can see what all of us think as we end the presentation. I'll get the link too.
So as well, if you want to ask question to Josphine on the chat, feel free to start adding some question.
I'm not so sure if this is the one, but I'm believing so. So let's try. Did everyone see the QR code? No, huh?
Yeah, put back the QR code, yeah. And
I give us a few minutes, then we can see the results. No? Does it work?
I think you send the presentation link, not the answer.
Oh.
So otherwise, you can just go to Menti and type.
Somebody says it works via the QR code.
Yeah, but it doesn't open a word cloud for me. It's only read-only.
So for me, it works too, but I don't know. I can, yeah, the username is there.
Then send again the up.
I send again the link. The thing is, I'm not so sure.
I mean, I put the link, but I don't manage to.
It should be working without signing up, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I need to sign up, and then I already am
No, you don't have at the top. There is a place where you can enter the code.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, but after entering the code, it's asking to sign up, and then because otherwise you can only see the results or something somehow.
Yeah.
At the top, there is a place to enter the codes.
Yeah, so basically, I don't know if somebody. Oh, Andreas, it worked for him.
But I don't see the results. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would say we can put it in the chat then.
Because I tried to put the code as well, but and then I'm in my page, but without.
For me, at the very top, you get enter code to join a live Menti, and then you can put the code over there.
Yeah, no, that it works. We put the code, but for me, I'm not sent to the good one.
Okay.
I'm basically it's told me thanks for joining and then sign up when I put the code.
So
actually it's the same one for me. Yeah, so this is consistent.
I'm sorry. So then we don't have to do it. We can just put something in the chat and then we can talk about questions.
Can you repeat the question we should answer in the chat?
Yeah, I do that.
So from the presentation, so what is one humanitarian practice that you could adapt to boost your resilience in your own project?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I can stop sharing, huh?
Yes, except if you have other slide, Josphine.
Yeah, I'm done. We can. So here we have a few answers: clear structure, people's safety as priority, open mind, delegate very early, be ready and prepare for any change, safety first, clear responsibilities and delegation. Somebody said all the above. Be prepared for all possible situations. Communication. This I totally agree. It's very important. Fast onboarding, agility and good communication and openness. So I also would say all the above, like somebody said. I really believe it's very important to delegate or empower your team. I believe it's important to have open communication because it encourages trust in the team. And I also believe that it's important to put safety first as a priority. So yeah, I agree with everything that we are talking about. I totally agree. So thank you all for listening to me. I hope nobody fell asleep. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'm open to answer.
Yes, so please.
So I have some problems with safety first. Because if you do that and be so risk averse, you're not coming to anything. So in a situation like Ukraine, yeah, so I worked there with Shiva Hospital, who set up very immediately a field hospital there. Yeah, if you really are not taking the risk, yeah, of course you do safety procedure, yeah, you do a very intense training, yeah, you simulate the situation again and again before you go, yeah, but you never know. So safety first is a killer in my opinion.
So in my mind, I thought we are talking about safety of the people because I talked about that our main goal is to save lives. So I do agree with you that you as a humanitarian worker, it's not so safety for you is more about preparedness, but then safety for the people that you're trying to help or to take care of. That's the safety I meant. Yeah.
Safety first to me never means that you do not do things. It's just that you reflect on what is the safety aspect and thereby mitigating the risk of serious incidents, right? There could be times where you say like, well, we cannot mitigate this risk and therefore we don't do it. But to me, that's not first and foremost what I mean when I basically said safety first, right? The safety aspect is a very important one, especially on the humanitarian side, as Gaiguci was explaining. And I work on the oil and gas industry, and there is a very similar mindset, right? You go for HAZOP studies in order to make sure that you don't have a single incident of a single source of failure. It's a mindset thing, and to me, it's not necessarily not doing anything rather than putting this as an aspect that should govern anything else that comes.
I would, if I may, I mean, I have no say here, but like, I would say context matters, right? Like in which context and how do you mean this safety first? Like, and in the oil industry, I mean, we all remember these huge oil spillages here and there. And yeah, I mean, of course, safety first there as well, yeah. That means something else than is a person being under bombardment somewhere in a war, let's say, yeah.
It also depends on your risk assessment. Yeah, so I have discussed with people from Lufthansa what is the acceptable risk of a crash. And of course, the risk of deadly incidences in the airline industry is much, much higher, the risk awareness than, for example, in a hospital. They're much more willing, it's about your personal situation. If you are not feeling that you are in control, like being a passenger on an airplane, everything is very scary. But if you think that you can control something, it's better. And so you need to figure out what is the acceptable risk under the circumstance. If you can, like Josphine has told us, save lives, maybe dozens of lives, then of course the risk is bigger that you can take.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then what you talked about, I would say it's more about discernment, having an open mind, because then you have to know in your field or whatever, wherever you're working, what do you have to put up here? Yeah.
It all encompasses what you said before, like the open-mindedness, the understanding the people and trying to understand the people that you're working with, understand your environment, basically, that you're in, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. Let me answer one question from Gwen Garrison is asking, what communication tools do you feel work best in the field and what do you like about them? So one thing about being in the field, like I mentioned the global clusters, this gives information of what happened in the night or whatever. And then as a team, we work often with WhatsApp. I know when you work office job, then you're thinking, no, I will turn off my work phone at 6 or 8. But then in this case, it's not possible to turn off your phone because things can change at any time and you have to be informed about it. This is very important. Yeah, so for me, I think WhatsApp is my favorite one because it's easy to do so much in this case. You can be in place with low connection and still be able to get information, and also with basic SMS to communicate with people fast. Sorry, I don't understand what Christopher wrote here. Teams for normal communication, Everbridge for emergency communication.
Yeah, team. Christopher, I think, was mentioning which communication means it is using.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, Everbridge.
Yeah, Everbridge is a system that we use in our company in practice to get people informed in case of emergencies happen. For example, we recently had a large power outage here in parts of Berlin, and then the company could reach out to everyone to ask them whether they are safe, for example, or whether they need support.
Amazing. This is something I never heard of it. I will explore to see what it's about and how maybe possibly to use it. And Peter Reinda, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, says they used WhatsApp also in Gaza. Is there another question? No, huh?
I think Andreas was raising their hand.
Okay.
Yes, I was raising my hand. One acronym that I would like to share is ALARP. That's called as low as reasonably possible. And that is one mechanism that we use to define a safety cutoff in case of a risk, because in medical device development, you need to make a very thorough risk assessment of the device. So what if the doctor does something wrong? What if there's a malfunction or whatever? And obviously, you can never be 100% sure that nothing will happen. But at some point, you can say, well, there is a reasonable cutoff where you can say, now I did everything that is within my power. That is maybe something that might help the discussion talking about safety first. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, if it's not a question as well, you are free as well to share your experience. I think is always welcome.
So, Josphine, can you please explain what makes this job so interesting for you? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that at the beginning. I always have had a feeling I like to help people in whatever way. I'm always the person, when you tell me something, I'm thinking about a solution. So for me, this coupled with engineering, it's like a sweet spot for me for having to do something that I'm really passionate about. Yeah.
So is there any question or remark to share maybe? Maybe on my side,
I can just correct about this Everbridge tool. I mean, I've seen it at a help desk implementation, and as if I remember correctly, and Christopher will correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, but there's a tool that should send alerts by SMS and email and whatnot, and but sadly it failed terribly in the beginning of that go live. So I'm not sure. So I guess everybody has different experiences with different tools, right? So I mean,
yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool that, of course, you hope that you never have to use it. Yeah, it is. So, and it depends on that people need to put in all their contact details by themselves in their tool, including private mobile numbers, company mobile numbers, emails, and whatever. So to increase the likelihood that you can be reached in case something happens somewhere. Yeah. So yeah, I cannot tell about the implementation difficulties. I'm just a normal company employee. Yeah.
So I don't know if there is further takeaways or further question. In the meantime, I put as well on the chat the Mentimeter to give your feedback about the session. On my side, Josphine, I would like to thank you a lot because it's really interesting to have the feedback and the experience of a young professional. And even though you have already 10 years of experience, which is already a lot, and it shows as well that everybody can speak with passion about the subjects that he's working on. So if as well one of you want to talk in the future, do not hesitate to contact us. And one point as a takeaway for me from your presentation is really the delegation and the ability to give everybody to take the decision. For example, I think when they were studying, for example, during the war in Ukraine, they were showing that, for example, the Russian troops were stuck because they were waiting orders from the commandant line, while the Ukrainians were much more actually agile to take decision on their own. So when you are far away from the center of the decision with a crisis, I think what you told us is really actually applicable in such emergency situation.
That's an interesting question, how decentralized you can be. Sometimes you cannot. Yeah. So with this big fire that I've mentioned, we really need to work like in the old military. Tell the people, and you do not have a choice. Yeah, but if you are widely spread, like we had in Gaza, then you need to be more independent from each other, but following strict guidelines.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. Thank you for inviting me, Florian and Thomas. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to have such an exchange because I also get to learn. So, yeah.
So I think it was really interesting for everybody. Josphine, thank you again. Please applause, give a warm applause to Josphine.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then I will continue sharing just to give you some quick feedback. So I need to put my bigger glasses. 19 people already answer, and we have very good feedback about the session. So thank you very much. I think it's give a very good feedback to Josphine for the future as well as a speaker. So, and thank you very much for her. Just to conclude, before letting you go, just to remind you that we have as well next event upcoming already. So we were quite well organized this year, thanks to the network of Thomas as well, to already book some speakers. So next week as well, we have a roundtable. So it will be in Darmstadt. It's not too late to register, but we are already a lot, so we hope that the restaurant will accept us.
We are 14 people who have booked, but we can still get some more.
Exactly. So feel free to join as well. It will be an interesting session. And the first of the year, so as well, it's a way to give us each other greetings for the new year. Then we have already the COP Life Science with Agile in Drugs Development, which will be an event online on the 20th. There is as well Jennifer Tarp from a fellow PMI from the US. Things that I learned the hard way. Maybe Thomas, you want to say more?
And let me comment, Jennifer is a good friend of mine. So she was on the PMI board for 9 years in a row. She went off the board in 2024. And so she is talking to us in her first presentation where she gives this her learnings from this 9 years on the board, what really is mattering to others. So maybe you could really try to come to visit Jennifer. And by the way, Olia, who joined us here, will moderate the session with Jennifer then. And somebody raised his hand.
Yeah. EBNA, you want to say something?
Yeah, hi. I just have a quick question. So are all your sessions always in English, or are there some that are in German, or they're all in English?
So our session organized by the local group Darmstadt are in English, the speaker.
And also the COP Life Sciences is in English because Camille is from Brussels. He is a very long-time project manager. And the COP Life Sciences is also driven by some people from Darmstadt. So that's why it's a little bit an outlier in this list. But as it is in English and in Darmstadt, and then we included this here.
Okay, thank you for explaining.
The wonderful list, I have to say. Great. I'm just a little bit unhappy that I can't participate on the 21st because I'll be in Vienna because Austrian colleagues introduced PMBOK 8 there and talk about that a little bit. But yeah, so I'm just thinking not only to you, but as a general comment, maybe we can also work at some point on a broader European calendar of events or something, or maybe it already exists and I just don't know. Because I'm this weird guy, I'm German, I live in Czech Republic, so I can go all kinds of different ways, yeah.
For the roundtable, you get the message waiting list, no free places. So is this serious or?
When do you get it?
Oh, when I try to register for the roundtable, so the first entry here. Yeah, I can only get on a waiting list. And then, of course, I have an appointment there, a conflicting appointment. But I would prefer, of course, our roundtable.
So I will double check. I think we put a ceiling at 12 or 14 because we were we are constrained as well with the restaurant. I will see how many people are there on the waiting list.
Okay, good. But it would be good to get an early feedback on that.
Yeah, I will double check. I must say we double check, but we need to check with the restaurant how much we can increase as well.
Yeah, the last attempt that we had, we did not have enough people signing up. Therefore, we have postponed it.
Yeah, it's always a problem. I mean, we don't control. Some people have good resolution starting of the year, so which is good for us. But then we were not sized necessarily to have more than 15 people. So we need to see as well with the restaurant because it can be an issue to have so many people as well. Okay, good. We will take that into account.
Florian,
and I come back to you.
Florian, Thomas Gauder asked to put the code, I think, of the Mentimeter again in the chat.
Yeah, I can. I will send it just after because I'm presenting, so I cannot see everything. But yeah, I do that just after. So maybe we just continue this list and then I can take over the question at the end as well. So then we will have already as well 2 events in February actually. So as well Dharam Singh from US, from strategy to value. So as well it's open for registration. And on the 26th of Feb, we have Ayman Sadek from Egypt, risk management for executive management. I don't know, Thomas, if you want to give a quick overview on that.
So Ayman is also a member of the Germany chapter. He is CEO of a shipyard company. So they are building ships and repairing ships in Egypt. And he is the executive there. And he wrote a paper on how executives need to be involved in risk management and projects. So this paper was published in January on the Project Management World Journal. And you can read it, and he will present this paper in this presentation.
Okay, and then on the 11th of March, we have Oliver Wilken. So he's the CEO of IQ, a young startup from Hamburg, specialized in AI. So he will present us as well how AI can support project management. So we need to define here a bit more the abstract. So we will let you know in detail. As mentioned as well, so we will put the video on YouTube so you can watch again the session if needed. And as well for the next event you cannot attend. So normally we always put the video on YouTube. So if you want to follow afterwards, and we will give you the credential if you cannot follow in live, but you follow it afterwards. So just to thanks you all to follow to be always more to this session of the local group Darmstadt. So you see we are 7 members from 6 countries. Unfortunately, Maria will step down a bit from our group. So we are looking as well always for help. So if you are interested to join us, you see we are a lot. So Tufik from Lebanon, Olia from North Macedonia. So myself from France, Thomas from Germany, Almira from Macedonia, so from Montenegro, and Mohammed from Afghanistan. So you see, we are quite diverse, but we are always welcome to have new people. And we have as well a LinkedIn group where we post our events if you want to stay posted. I will just now stop the recording. So thank you very much, everybody.